There have been a series of horrific acts over the past several years. San Bernardino, Orlando, Paris, Brussels. And whenever anything like that happens, you look backwards, you try to take a view through the rearview mirror and say, all right, what did we know? What should we have known? What could we have known? And one of the questions that always comes up is maybe we missed stuff because bad people were communicating before the act in an encrypted form, and we simply never detected the content of the communication.
The concern is that more and more encryption is so sophisticated, even for the average person, that it's very difficult, if not impossible, to crack the code. So the question is, how much of a handicap is that to law enforcement? On the other hand, are there solutions that would help law enforcement but hurt everybody in general?
Many of us would just say, why not let the government have a master key to all phones? And I think that the temptation for a simple solution like that is very appealing. However, when you strip back what that means in terms of all the complexities of both how do you create the key, how do you control the key and keep it from leaking, and lastly, how do you make sure that if you impose that key on all US phones, are you really making yourself more secure?
Even if you could get Congress to pass a law that said everybody who manufactures encryption capability in the U.S. has to create a duplicate key or a backdoor, that wouldn't stop people from buying encryption devices or tools overseas. And people who wanted to come to the U.S. and carry out a nefarious scheme would simply find or download a form of encryption that didn't have a backdoor. They would bring it in on their phone, and then they would use it, and law enforcement would face the same problem.
To use a so-called clipper chip in their computers.
In the 1990s, one of my predecessors at NSA, Mike McConnell, had a going dark problem. He saw the growth of encryption, and what he wanted to do was to embed in all American-produced encryption systems a clipper chip, a doorway, an extraordinary access that would be used only under law, that would allow NSA to get behind the screen in order to read the plain text.
The argument was that this would be something that would not be available to the general public, but law enforcement would hold it, and then when you had the legal authority, that chip would allow you to decrypt the conversation. It's a form of duplicate key. It turned out that some smart mathematician type figured out a way to bypass the clipper chip. This is a case where the solution of having a legislative requirement of a backdoor or a duplicate key would only hurt innocent people who are being honest, but it really wouldn't disrupt the activities of criminals who would be able to find encryption tools elsewhere in the world. The reality is the vast majority of cases done at every level of government don't involve encrypted communications or involve a lot of other evidence that can be used to convict.
What's even more revealing is the Manhattan District Attorney's Office had reported over a one-year period during 2014 to 2015 that they had 111 cases where encryption had hindered their investigation. While each and every case is certainly important and deserves to be solved, this total number represented 0.1% of the total number of cases that they were investigating at that time. Law enforcement may be trying to certainly achieve every bit of information that they can on a phone, including the content. But if that information is encrypted, there are other data sources available for law enforcement. That's often called metadata.
So if you look, for example, at travel information, which is not encrypted, if you look at information about whether one terrorist contacted another person and you see a connection, if you look, for example, at the way money flows, and all of these things are available to law enforcement, this may very well give you the heads up or the warning you need to track somebody. And then there are technologies you can use to track people, again, if you have appropriate legal authority.
No advantage in intelligence is permanent. Everything is transient. It's always a race. And if you stop, the other guy's going to pass you. And so this isn't an unnatural state for law enforcement or our intelligence services to adjust to changing realities.